Hello and welcome to Government with Dr. Turner. Today we're going to identify the ways that politics influences how congressional districts are defined and who runs for Congress. We mentioned earlier that the Constitution calls for 2 senators from each state. This gives states equal representation in the Senate. Every voter within a state's boundaries votes for the 2 senators. Their 6-year terms are usually staggered, so voters only consider 1 Senate seat at a time. Under this arrangement, there's no need for complex election planning. The only time the Senate will substantially change structure is if we add a state, and even then it's no big deal to add 2 more senators to the 100 already there. The House of Representatives is another matter entirely. Representation in the House is proportional according to state population. When people move from state to state, or when people move around within the state, it requires an adjustment to how the representatives are elected. We're going to focus on 3 words to describe what happens: reapportionment, redistricting, and gerrymandering. The reallocation of congressional seats among the states every 10 years following the census is known as reapportionment. Reapportionment is required by the Constitution. In fact, it's why the census was created. If states are going to send representatives based on their population, it makes sense we have to know what that population is. People are born, they live here and there, and then they die. The population of states is constantly changing. Every 10 years, we use the census to find out how many people live in each state, and then use a formula to divide up 435 seats in an equitable way. Reapportionment is pretty straightforward, and assuming the census is conducted well, there's not much opportunity for funny business to occur. But what happens inside each state? We elect our representatives using single-member districts. Each state must be divided into the appropriate number of congressional districts. For example, if Texas sends 36 representatives to the House, there must be 36 congressional districts in Texas. Since we believe in the idea of 1 person, 1 vote, it's important that congressional districts contain roughly the same number of people. Today, congressional districts contain around 700,000 people. The process of redrawing congressional districts to match population movement within states is called redistricting. This process also happens every 10 years as soon as reapportionment is completed. States can choose who handles this job, but right now it is done by state legislatures in a majority of the states. Because state legislatures are typically filled with a lot of politicians, redistricting is a very political process, and there's a great deal of opportunity for funny business to occur. Redrawing congressional district boundaries to favor a particular group or party is known as gerrymandering. Simply by the way you draw lines on a map, you can determine which party is likely to win in that district. The process is very predictable and consistent. You really can break up a population in different ways and determine the outcome of elections in the district for the next decade. The word gerrymander was created in 1812 when someone noticed during the Massachusetts redistricting process that the state Senate districts being drawn under the direction of Governor Elbridge Gerry gave a big advantage to his political party. And they also looked somewhat like a salamander. So they took his first name and paired it with the last part of salamander and created the word gerrymander. Sometimes it is done to reinforce the current power structure. Sometimes it is done to gain even more seats for a particular party. There are a variety of strategies that can be used to gerrymander a district. The practice continues even today, although many such districts are challenged in the courts. Gerrymandering, like most powers, can be used for both evil or good. For example, some states resorted to racial gerrymandering in order to help elect representatives of color. Majority-minority districts make it easier for minority citizens to elect one of their own. A feature of racial gerrymandering is that it can be employed to both harm and help the representation of ethnic minorities in Congress. However, the Supreme Court is not a huge fan of any process that alters the standard of one person, one vote. Many of the efforts by states to create majority-minority districts have been held unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Now that the districts have been defined, who actually wants to run for Congress? The constitutional qualifications are easy to meet. You must be at least 25 years old for the House, at least 30 for the Senate. You must have been a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years for the House and 9 years for the Senate. You must also be a resident of the state you wish to represent. Some candidates say they are simply motivated to serve the public. Others may be motivated by ideology or party. Perhaps they believe they can represent the local interests better than others. Some might see it as an attractive job. It has a reasonably good salary, although the cost of living in Washington, D.C. is very high. Congressmen receive a lot of perks like good health insurance, gym memberships, and more. But there's also a great deal of hard work involved. They are located in the seat of American power, but there is no real job security. Once a candidate decides to run, what are the chances of winning? The biggest hurdle is financial. Campaigns are incredibly expensive. If the candidate is running against the incumbent, which is someone who already holds the seat, they face a very difficult uphill battle. Midterm elections refer to the congressional elections that occur between presidential elections. A particular candidate's chances can be altered in the midterm elections by certain conditions. For example, if the president is unpopular with the public and the public is unhappy with the perceived state of the economy, the president's party is more likely to lose midterm elections. On the other hand, during presidential elections, congressional candidates can sometimes capitalize on a presidential candidate's popularity to win more easily. This is known as the coattail effect, although this effect has been decreasing in importance with declining party identification. Let's review. The reallocation of congressional seats among the states every 10 years following the census is known as reapportionment. The process of redrawing congressional districts to match population shifts in states with more than one representative is called redistricting. Redrawing congressional district boundaries to favor a particular group or party is known as gerrymandering.